I was one of the Native American children, adopted at birth and removed from our country's Indian reservation system. I was raised in a small middle-class farming community, but was never told of my true American Indian heritage. It was still taboo back in those early days. The years passed, and in 1987 I lost both parents. While going through their personal belongings, my wife discovered my adoption papers and she began a search. 5 years later, I was reunited with my biological Lakota family, living on the Lower Brule Sioux Indian Reservation of South Dakota. I am a son of two mothers and a product of two worlds that had collided, but I have an equal amount of love and pride for both. I'm Paul LaRoche, and the stories you are about to see are an attempt to share this true American story of a hidden heritage. It was during our homecoming in 1993 that I first began to hear stories of places some called sacred sites. These are places of great significance to the indigenous people of North America, yet you hear very little of them in the mainstream. A sacred site is a place that is understood to be holy or devoted to spiritual or religious use. In my younger days, I made countless trips along the I-90 corridor, traveling east and west across the northern plains. Seldom in those early days did I pay particular attention to the signs along the highway, tempting the traveler to venture off the interstate and down the road less traveled. One such place lies just 25 miles north of Interstate 90 and a mere 50 miles from where I had grown up as a young boy, Worthington, Minnesota. The place is Pipestone. As a young boy, I heard occasional stories of the peace pipe and its origins in southwest Minnesota. But never once in the first 38 years of my life did I visit this site, never realizing the significance this place would have years later when I reclaimed my Lakota heritage.
Hello, I'm Paul LaRoche. Thank you for joining us this week on our episode of Hidden Heritage that we call Sacred Sites. If I were to mention the term peace pipe, most of you would have some idea what I'm referring to. In fact, there's a long story behind the Native American peace pipe. The red stone that makes up the bowl of the pipe comes from one place and one place only in the world, and that's located in southwest Minnesota. We're going to visit that location this week, and we're going to take a trip to Pipestone National Monument. We'll have a chance to visit with some of the people that work there. In fact, we'll meet with an interpreter who's going to take us through the park. He'll share some of the legends and some of the stories that go back hundreds of years. We're also going to meet a young gentleman who's been quarrying pipestone for the past 28 years. Come on along now as we take a visit to Pipestone National Monument.
I received my first pipe in 2004 during my Lakota naming ceremony. Along with the pipe came its story and the importance it played to the Lakota people. Finally, in August of 2009, my son and I set out for our first visit to Pipestone, Minnesota, the only place in the world where this red-colored stone exists.
A long time ago, the Creator put man on earth, and he thought we'd all live together and get along, and he gave some people the buffalo and some people the wild rice, and some people the choke cherries. And after a little while, the people started looking at the other person and saying, wait a minute, they got more than I got, or they got something better than I got, and they started fighting with each other. And they kept fighting, and pretty soon the ground ran red with the blood of all of our people. The Creator looked down and was very distressed. He said, wait a minute, that's not why I put man on earth. And there'd been so much fighting, the blood got deeper and deeper and got compressed down. The Creator come down and called all the people together. And he broke off a piece of that red stone that the blood had become and shaped a pipe, and told all the nations he wanted them to smoke that pipe and pray or swear not to fight with each other anymore. And nobody wanted to pick up that pipe because each one of them thought maybe the next guy wouldn't agree with it and they'd come and beat up on him. Finally, a little kid runs out and he grabs that pipe from the Creator and he runs away with it. Everybody laughed. And they got the pipe back, and that broke the ice, and they all shared the pipe of peace. And that's how this got to be known as a place of peace for all our tribal people, where we would come here and lay down our weapons to quarry the stone and take it home to make their own pipes or chanupas or calumets, whatever they call them. So that's one of the stories that our people tell about this special place.
Thank you for joining us and welcome back to Hidden Heritage. This week we are visiting Pipestone, Minnesota. We caught up with one of the tribal members who's been quarrying this rock for over 20 years. He explained to us the tedious and difficult task of just what it takes to get this rock out of the ground.
My name is Travis Erickson, and I'm enrolled with the Sisseton-Wahpeton Lakota Nation. And today we're in a quarry that I've been in for 28 years. And when I first started this quarry, it was about 6 feet deep. I had 3 feet of quartzite and 3 feet of dirt. And over the years that I've been here quarrying into the stone, now today, 28 years later, I've got 12 feet of quartzite and I have 5 feet of dirt. And I'm running into a lot of quartzite rocks that are in the dirt, which were dragged down by the glacier age here. And a lot of the gravel that you see above the quartzite level was dragged down by the glacier age. Now you see the dirt level up here, they're saying that there's about 10-15,000 years of plants growing and dying and growing and dying. So this is basically what we have today is what the glacier age did. Like scientifically, if you want to break this down, the Pipestone rock was actually a deposit of clay that was probably done maybe by volcanic activity or what was ever part of the sea that was here that was forming this. The soft clay was about 4 feet thick, and then somewhere along the lines comes the sand deposit, and that was even thicker. And this is what we have. This quartzite, this 12 feet of quartzite is actually sand. And when we had a glacier age about 100,000 years ago, it compressed all of this down into what we see today. We are dealing, in this area of the quarries, we're dealing with 14 to 16 inches of pipestone rock that was compressed during the glacier age. And the sand is now compressed into quartzite, which is ranked in the top 5 hardest stones in the world today. But fortunately for us, because of the earth changing and the earth shifting, when that glacier was compressing all of this and the earth would shake or whatever happened, earthquake, whatever adjustments, that glacier was about a mile thick, and it would shake and it would roll, and it probably caused some of the fractures that we see today that's in this wall. Now over time, when everything was compressed and done, moisture that gets into these fractures here, and they freeze throughout the winter months, and it causes the fractures to get bigger or be more defined. But there was so much weight that was on this here that when it was compressed and hardened, the clay metamorphosized into the stone that's pipestone today, that it was so heavy and so hard on it that it probably broke up a lot of the pipestone rock underneath it, causing vertical fractures and horizontal fractures. And over time, pipestone rock will absorb moisture. And in the pipestone rock, there's this small, kind of tiny little fissures in there. And when it would freeze, some of those fissures actually cracked all the way through the layering. But today, when we pull stone out, we actually will get pieces between a ½ inch all the way up to 2 inches thick. And once in a great while, we'll run into those pieces that are about 3 inches thick. And that's usually, in our world, that's bragging material there. But 2 inches is average. And that's really something to see when you pull stone out of these quarries. So without any further ado, gentlemen, shall we get into the bottom of the pit and get to it? Here is the pipestone vein, from here down to this floor. This pipestone vein runs through all this land that's down here at the Pipestone National Monument. Then I get up there and I'll start breaking up layer after layer after layer. Now, if this was just straight up to the 12-foot level up there, you're looking at about 3 or 4 tons of quartzite that'll have to be removed to get out of here, to come down to find the end of this fracture here that's over here. What I don't know is how deep, how far back does this fracture end, because this is going to be a big square underneath this wall here. So we have to take the sledgehammers and the wedges, and that's all we're allowed to do with pry bars and pickaxes and whatever hand tools, basically. Now, the problem with the last layer of quartzite is it doesn't give up that easily. So in some sense of the way, you're being challenged here. You're being spiritually challenged on your will, who you are, what you believe. This last layer of quartzite is practically the hardest layer that we do have. And to break this up is not impossible, but it really does test you quite a bit.
Before the day was over, all of us definitely had a new appreciation for the sheer amount of work and time and persistence that it takes to get at and quarry a single piece of pipestone. The idea of 28 years of this, to most of us, was unimaginable. And now we return to Pipestone National Monument in southwest Minnesota. There are a lot of stories, legends, about this place, Pipestone National Monument. Let's join our interpreter as he tells us one such story, the legend of Stoneface.
Stoneface. It's one of a couple of really cool images in Pipestone National Monument. This one has a story behind it. A long time ago, our young men were supposed to prove their love for a girl by jumping from one cliff to the top of that face up there. And I never heard how well they did or how many didn't make it, but it's a pretty good jump. And the hard part would really be jumping back, because there's nowhere to take off from. Really neat spot, one of a couple places out here that are really significant to our tribal people. Kind of part of the sacredness of this whole place. place behind me the oracle. It's a face of a tribal guy with a big nose. And when the winds are blowing, you'll hear strange sounds coming through here because it whistles through those different cuts in the stone. And it actually sounds like somebody talking to you. That face has been there for hundreds and hundreds of years, maybe longer. And thousands of people every year come up here to see it. It's a real special spot. On a windy day, they might sit around here for 20 or 30 minutes just listening to the different sounds it makes. So that's how it got its name. One of the oldest pits in the quarry that's still actively quarried today. It's called Indian Joe's Pit. It was opened up by old Joe Taylor way back before this became a park. And his family's been quarrying it ever since. His grandson, Lee Taylor's quarrying it yet today. And none of the younger people want to take it over. They think it's too much work to get the stone out. So Lee's not sure what's going to happen when he dies. And he's probably 60 years old, had a couple heart attacks. And he's still getting in the hole and digging for stone. But there's a lot of significance to this pit. It's deep enough where the stone is really good. And it's been his life. Just like Travis's pit up on the north end. That's been his whole life. He's a third generation pipe maker and Lee's a fifth generation. So these guys been working in these same pits for year after year after year. The kids learn from the parents and the grandkids learn from the grandparents and the dads. Some of them think it's worth preserving, saving for future generations and sharing the pipes with the world. So that's what a lot of our people do out here.
We had one final surprise before leaving this wonderful place. Years ago, at our homecoming, we were given a family tree. On the tree, we had noticed a name and a striking old photo of a gentleman called Strikes the Reed. This ancestor was a Yankton Sioux chief, best known for his efforts to work on peaceful relations between the cultures. We didn't expect to see him here at this place, but as it turns out, he was here years ago to help negotiate a peaceful solution with the United States government to ensure that this place and its valuable stone, the Pipestone, would always be here for the indigenous people of this continent.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Hidden Heritage, Sacred Sites, and our visit to Pipestone National Monument.